I'm Tara Barney, and I'm very happy to be with you all this morning. I know everyone's getting settled in and people are still joining us, but it's 7:31 and we have a lot to talk about. So let me introduce myself. I have the privilege of heading up the Evansville Regional Economic Partnership, which is the recent aggregation of the Southwest Indiana Chamber, the Southwest Indiana Coalition, and the Growth Alliance. So we are unified, and we are intent on doing all we can to make sure we bring relevant information and content to our businesses and organizations that make this community fly. So thanks for being with us today for an important conversation. I hope you had a chance to be with us for our two previous conversations about what we do as a community to make sure we're embedding equity in our work. But if you haven't, don't worry, they're online and you can catch up with us at your earliest convenience. But I do want to thank you all for making time for this today. I know that you've got a lot of choices, and your commitment to this work and this conversation is not only important to you and to your business, but it's certainly important to our region. So great to have you with us today. I think you're going to find this is a very interesting morning. I do want to take a second to recognize that while I'm sitting here having this conversation with you today, I've had some great partners in producing this series and talking through what's relevant to you. And they include the Southwest Indiana YMCA, and you will hear from Johnathan Pope shortly. And they include Bridge. And finally, the Wellborn Foundation has been a very great partner to us through this early work, and I know will continue to be. This is my chance to say that we're going to welcome more partners. So give good thought to how you can help us to carry this work forward in the community. In our last two events, we made a point of sharing some basic terms, and you'll see them on the screen right now. We wanted to make sure we were all talking from the same context. So we spent a little time talking about what diversity means, how equity differs from diversity as a term, what equality is about, and most important, the value of inclusion and the value it brings to our organizations as we build deliberate inclusion plans and intent and action into the work of our community. So I just want to put those up as a little context builder. Today, though, we are going to spend the bulk of our time really talking about how some of our local partners, the businesses in this community that have been on this journey for years, are building success and building progress in this important work, and share some things that are easy for you to embed in your organization or to give consideration to as you begin or continue your own journey into building equitable inclusion into the work of your organization and the constituencies you work with. So it's my great opportunity to introduce a woman who's been leading in this space for, I would say, most of her career. Leah Curry is going to spend a few minutes with us just sharing her perspective on this. If you don't know Leah, I would be remiss in not pointing out that she's the president of Toyota Motor Manufacturing of Indiana, which we call Toyota Indiana. And she has been in her work with Toyota for, I'd say, the bulk of her career, but I'll let her speak more to that if she wishes. But Toyota is a company that's been embedding and successfully making their work in inclusion part of their HR strategy and part of their culture for a good bit of time. And so they've got some great perspective to share with us this morning. I will take a moment to point out that Leah is a lifelong Hoosier. She's actually a lifelong Southwest Indiana resident. And significantly, she's also been educated at our local higher education institution. So it's great to have her represent and launch us this morning. Leah, without further ado, I'm going to give you the floor and thank you for being with us this morning.
Oh, thank you, Tara. It's really exciting to be here today. Very honored. Again, my name's Leah Curry. I'm the president here at Team MI, and it's a pleasure to kick off this third event of EREP's DEI series. You know, at Toyota, we give our commitment when we first start talking, and my commitment is to provide an inclusive environment where zero injuries and zero defects is possible, and everyone can bring their unique self to work. So we know that from a diversity, equity, inclusion, it's a vital part of our Toyota DNA. One of our pillars is respect for people. And, you know, that is something that really means a lot to all of us. I talk to every one of our new hire groups that come in, and one of my messages is to them is, we're all different. We come from different backgrounds. We come from the city, we all come from the country. We have maybe a single child or multiple siblings. We grew up differently. We all have our different unique experiences that make us who we are. And that's what we need at Toyota, because we want everyone to bring their unique self to work, learn from each other, and as a team, we can solve any problem if every voice is heard. So we have over 7,000 team members here, and could you imagine if we only had 1,000 people that felt like they could speak up and not be afraid to say something? We would be missing out on 6,000 ideas that could help us really take Toyota to a whole nother level. So the key for us is making sure that the environment is inclusive and that we learn from each other, especially at different times in our careers. It's ongoing. And one of the tools we have is called business partnering groups. We have 8 different business partnering groups, from WIT, women impacting and influencing Toyota, to our African American, to our Spectrum, to our Totos, Hispanic. And I encourage our team members to get involved in one of the business partnering groups, because when you do that, it's all volunteer. You walk through that door and there's no positions, there's no levels. Everybody's learning from each other. You can work together to do events, training, education, help with the business. That's part of that each one of our business partnering groups has their HOSHN, which is their business plan, and it's in alignment with Toyota's, but it's in their perspective. And so we learn from them when they come and they teach us what's their passion and what do they want to do to help Toyota and to help the community. And so we're constantly making sure that we have this inclusive environment where we can, embrace each other and learn from each other, and really just build a stronger team. And I'll tell you about one of the events. This is going to lead up to a little bit about what Ted's going to be talking about. He's got a lot of different topics, but we had a diversity event, and this was all grassroots team member. They put on a little scavenger hunt and it was out lunch, and when whoever won got to go to our plant in Kentucky and just benchmark them and see what they were doing around diversity and inclusion. And they went there and they found that there was some, they had a enclave for disabilities, and it was extremely successful. So that came back, they were all fired up. And that's how we started our enclave of disabilities, and that Ted has been extreme champion of, and he'll tell you a lot more about that. But what I want to get you out of that is, you don't know what other people, they're going to think of things to do based on their experiences. They learned something from our other plant, they brought it back, and they were so empowered and had the passion to see it through. And he'll tell you about how this has grown over the years. So your members have more ideas in them that we need to engage. So we talk about the head, heart, and hands of our people, so that every heart is engaged and every hand is productive. We're going to make sure that they feel safe and that they can bring up their passions and their desires in a very, very safe work area. And, I know this is a journey. It's always a journey. I've been in manufacturing for 41 years, 24 of that has been at Toyota. And, it still is a male dominated environment. And when I get asked to speak many times, they'll say, or it's an interview, and they'll say, well, what's it like to be a female leading a large manufacturing plant? And I always find it odd that, what's it like to be a male leading? I mean, a male doesn't get asked, what's it like to be a male doing this? So like, I don't know any different. This is all I know is me. You know, when we arrive, the day we know we've arrived is when we don't have to use adjectives anymore to describe a person in a leadership position. They just are. How is it to be, what's it like to be the leader of a large manufacturing plant? Then my adjective is gone. I know we've arrived, or we've gotten a lot further down the path of our journey. So that's why we're having these series. This is to teach, learn, share our experiences, and make sure that, you know, we learn from each other, and we are committed to advancing DE&I everywhere in our community, in our businesses, in all of the areas that we work, live, and play. And I'm just very, very dedicated to letting others know that, you know, we are on that path of inclusiveness, and we have to get our team members' ideas, to get the diverse thoughts and ideas to solve the problems like our customers are, because they expect that. Our customers expect that. And if we reflect our community, then we're going to be a lot better at understanding our customer and actually growing our business. So again, I just want to say thank you for letting me be a part of this and kick off. There's going to be a lot of good information that you're going to hear from the panelists. And I'm very excited to listen to everyone's ideas and learn myself, as I do every day, from each other. So I'll kick it back to you guys. Thank you.
Well, Leah Curry, thank you for being with us and for launching this conversation today. I have to say, I know you're a leader in many national organizations, but I'm surely glad you're a leader in this community and with our great Toyota facility here. And most important, she's one of our board members for Evansville Regional Economic Partnership. So she keeps this work front and center for us day in and day out. So thank you so much for being with us, Leah.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
It's a great start. But I want to introduce our facilitator for today's conversation. Many of you know Johnathan Pope. He's the president and CEO of the YMCA of Southwest Indiana, one of my favorite institutions in this community. And Johnathan is one of my favorite people. I've enjoyed getting to know him since he followed me to this region about a year after I showed up. And so I'm happy that he's a part of this important conversation, and he's going to guide our discussion today. So Johnathan, thank you for being with us, and I'm going to give you the floor, sir.
Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Leah. I should add that, you know, the YMCA really proud to be partners with Toyota. We believe what they stand for is what we stand for, and we are happy to be partnering with them in many ways. Welcome. Glad everyone could join us this morning. We have a panel assembled to have a simple discussion about how we can advance DEI concepts. And, you know, we'll just jump right in and introduce you to some of the individuals that will be a part of this discussion. So Ted Brown is going to be one of our first panelists, and he is from Toyota. And have a little short bio on each of the panelists, and I'll just read some highlights from that. But Ted's the Vice President Administration at Toyota Motor Manufacturing, where he oversees the company's safety, human relations, finance, production, control, internal logistics, and supply chain divisions. So he's a pretty busy gentleman. He's got more than 30 years of experience in the manufacturing sector. Mr. Brown also serves as the executive champion for Toyota North America's Business Partner Group, BPG. It's an employee-driven network with a mission to embrace people and families with physical, non-visible, temporary, and permanent disabilities, while helping to promote cultural diversity, equity, and inclusion. Ted's most notable achievement in the inclusive space is spearheading the creation, implementation, and development of TMMI's program to train and hire individuals with varying disabilities, which we'll talk about today. It's a well-established partnership with another great organization, the ARC of Southwest Indiana. He's active in the community, Gibson County Economic Development Corporation, Connexus, Indiana, and he holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Manufacturing Engineering from Kettering University in Flint, Michigan. I'll go ahead and introduce the second and third panelists as well, and then we'll jump into the conversation. Kent Walden, partner organization with Toyota. Kent is pretty much, he's held many positions in the accounting department with Millennium Steel. And he started as an entry-level accountant, analyzing data, mainly responsible for accounts payable, and then he transferred into accounts receivable years later. So his journey he's going to talk about, but currently he is the controller for Millennium Steel. Kent holds an Associate of Science degree in Business Administration. He graduated from Vincennes University, so he's a local product growing up in Princeton, Indiana. Kent's also involved in the community. He serves on advisory boards of Gibson County Community Foundation, the Gibson County Chamber of Commerce, Gibson County Economic Development, Sand Hill Cemetery, and Lyle Station, which is a great place to visit. It's one of Indiana's first African-American settlements, started by slaves and the only remaining settlement in Indiana. Kent works alongside his dad to maintain that property. He also volunteers on several occasions for the United Way, Salvation Army, and the ARC of Southwestern Indiana. And our final panelist, who's also with Millennium Steel, is Dustin Priestley. Dustin currently oversees every aspect of technology for the company's two locations in San Antonio and in Princeton, Indiana. He coordinates project development, testing, and deployment between Millennium and application developers like Northrop and Grumman. He graduated from Princeton as well, community high school. His associate's degree in applied science of computer programming from Vincennes University. And he's also received from Indiana State University a bachelor's degree in information technology. Dustin is also involved in the community and is the current chair for the Gibson County Junior Achievement Advisory Board, which is a great organization. So please welcome our panelists for today. I want to start the conversation talking about the I in DEI. Leah pointed out some of the great things that Toyota's doing in that space and referenced Ted and his experience in that realm. So Ted, I want to start the conversation off with the I in DEI. We haven't had a chance to really explore that in our three-part series. Toyota's got a great story to tell, and it's doing an exceptional job in that space. Can you share some of the DEI strategies when it comes to inclusion?
Sure. Thanks, Jonathan. First, I appreciate being here. Big honor to share kind of what we're doing here at Toyota to improve the inclusion, so that way we can, achieve better diversity and equity in our workplace. So, our first strategy to advance DEI is really simple. It's how do we make it part of our regular everyday life, and how we do that is, Toyota's DNA is the Toyota way. In the Toyota way, we have two pillars. It's continuous improvement and respect for people. So how we approach that is, how are we continuously improving at respecting people through inclusion? So from there, we start implementing strategies to work on that inclusive space. So as Leah mentioned, business partnering groups are a great opportunity, grassroots opportunities for team members to get engaged with an affinity group, to become an ally, or share different things about an entity that they believe needs some attention, so that way we can learn more about being more inclusive in that space. Next, what we do is make sure that we're listening. So how do we work together with our BPGs to listen to what things they are seeing and hearing out there on the shop floor that they believe will be more inclusive, so that we get more ideas so that everybody's a part of the problem solving activities so that we can advance our organization.
Great, great. So you specifically have a program that deals with employing individuals with disabilities, and that's a model program. Can you talk a little bit more in detail how that program operates?
Yeah, sure. It's been a journey for quite some years. As Leah mentioned, in 2012, we had kind of a in-house competition where, groups were looking to find ways to, make it better for a diversity and inclusion activity. Did a little scavenger hunt. They went to our plant in Kentucky, Georgetown, Kentucky, and they found an enclave. So they came back and said, we need to do this. And of course, they came to Leah and I, and we both said, absolutely, let's do it. So in 2014, we partnered with ARC of Southwestern Indiana, and we created our first enclave in our East Assembly line. We had 4 people with disabilities per shift, so a total of 8 working to sub-assemble some parts for our assembly line there. So it was wonderful. Everybody loved it. 2015, we doubled our size. We have 2 lines here. We produced the Highlander, the Sienna, and the Sequoia. So our second assembly line, we added another 4 team members per shift with disabilities working there. So now we had a total of 16 team members with disabilities assembling parts for the great vehicles we build here every day. We thought that was it. We thought we were done. That's wonderful. But through engagements like this in 2015 and 16, Old National Bank held a feature for National Disabilities Employment Awareness Month. And at that time, we were introduced to a story of Walgreens. And Walgreens had an activity where they actually built a plant in South Carolina where they had 30% of their workforce was from the population of people with disabilities. And we learned about that activity and then reflected in the true Toyota way. Why are we doing what we're doing with the Enclave? Had they been as successful as Walgreens? Should we be doing more? Were we being inclusive? And what we recognized is that while we've done some integration, we hadn't really gone to inclusive because the individuals working there were working, kind of in a sheltered area. They weren't part of the mainstream. They weren't becoming promoted, getting into the competitive employment on our campus. So in 2016, we went out and intentionally started working towards what do we need to do to confirm in the individual skills so they can move up. Our first step was to say, how successful has this group been? Well, in 2.5 years that they had been working out there, they had worked over 40,000 hours, 0 safety issues, not even a safety violation. From a quality perspective, they built 4 million parts. They had 0 defects get to the line. From an attendance perspective, absolutely perfect. We had a snowstorm during that time frame. We had 400 team members for our regular production that called in due to not being able to make it work. Our enclaves, all 16 members were there, no issues whatsoever. So we continued to see that they were successful. So what could we do to improve their skill set to make them available to move up into our organization? So we intentionally changed one of our enclaves to a training facility, and we started seeing individuals move up into our competitive employment on the shop floor. We placed the first 2 with some contractors here. We have about 20 employers on our campus. We have 10,000 people that show up here every day. And so it's a lot of opportunity. After that, we started placing folks into our weld shop, and we started seeing some continued success. In 2019, we were introduced to a national competition with regards to making a mainstream opportunity for folks to learn with disabilities for employment streams into our workplace. And we created an apprenticeship program, and we launched that in early 2020, right in the middle of COVID, believe it or not, that we ended up having folks come and learn the jobs. It's 12-week apprenticeship, and they work side by side with a mentor from our facility, learn the skills, and then upon successful completion, they get a full-time job here in our campus. So in that time frame, we've seen about 40 individuals with disabilities gain employment here on campus. It's been really rewarding. As a personal note, my son has been, a benefit of that. He went through an apprenticeship program. My son was born with spina bifida, so he's got some learning and physical and social disabilities. And he was able to work here for the last 4 years, and it's been a really great opportunity. I've seen people like him and others buy cars, buy houses, move out on their own, and see families freed from the burden of wondering what's going to happen with their loved one with a disability. So it's been a really cool opportunity, and we've seen our team members benefit from it as well, being the mentors.
Yeah, awesome story. Thanks for sharing that, Ted. Kent, I want to turn to you, Millennium Steel. You guys got quite a story to tell as well when we think about Millennium Steel. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Millennium Steel is a tier 1 raw materials supplier for Toyota, a big partner in that respect, but also for other Toyota parts makers for a very important piece in terms of manufacturing vehicles, and that's steel. But they're also minority owned. Can you tell us how the organization came to be, Mr. Jackson, and how he started the business and how he built it?
Sure. As Ted said, thank you for having us today. This is an awesome opportunity to be able to talk about our business. So yeah, I'll talk about a little bit about how the business came to be. So it was founded by the late Henry Jackson in 2001. Henry and his wife Andrea are from the Chicago area, and Henry really developed into a prominent businessman and entrepreneur that had experiences in many different businesses. He really got started with his career, after a short stint in the U.S. Army, serving in Vietnam for a few years in the late 60s into 1970, I believe. And Henry came back and graduated from DePaul University with an accounting degree. So we've had several conversations along the accounting lines. He then started as an entry-level accountant, worked his way up to higher positions in accounting and management with several different companies. One company in particular was Clark Material Handling Company, which he worked over, which is a division of Clark Equipment. You all have probably heard of that. He worked over 20 years with them. During that time, he received his MBA from Notre Dame, and then he rose to senior VP and CFO during that time. So they were also responsible for some business overseas. So they actually lived in Germany for a while there. When he returned, shortly after, he left that company because he wanted to start his own business. So in 1995, he started Jackson Plastics in Nicholasville, Kentucky. So they were a plastic injection molding company that survived several parts for the automotive industry, mainly Toyota. So over the next several years, Henry began making a lot of relationships with Toyota. So then the opportunity came for him to do the joint venture with Toyota Two Show Incorporated. So they already had the facility, which is where we reside here, that started in 1998. And then that joint venture relationship started in 2001 as Millennium Steel Service, and that's when Mr. Jackson became the majority minority owner at 51% of the company. So it kind of started as a storage facility here. We added the slitting line soon after to run the steel coils, to check for defects, to customer parts specifications for Toyota and other parts makers. So basically, we're really a quality gate between the steel mills and the final product that goes over to Toyota. So then in 2005, he was actually able to do a similar joint venture in San Antonio, Texas. So that started up as Millennium Steel of Texas. That's where they build the Tundra and the Tacoma models. So both Millennium plants have grown substantially over the past several years, probably bigger than was really initially envisioned. We know Henry and Andrea had very big plans, but I don't know if it was as big as they thought it was going to be as it is right now. So Indiana plant just added a blanking line back and that finished in 2019. So we've been doing blanking then. The Texas plant just finished their expansion, and they have added a fourth blanking line. So they've just started production there as well. So we currently have 140 employees across both plants, and we want to hire at least 30 more in the near future. So then over the same time, Henry and Andrea have started some other joint ventures. They've started Sonova Carpets in North Carolina, which is close to the plant down there. They have stake in some other companies, not just the automotive industry, but several industries. They're involved in insurance, lighting, restaurant business, sports training business, construction companies. So a little bit of everything. So that just shows that they're not only involved in, what we started with Toyota, but just anything that is possible to grow. So I think some of you guys know Mr. Jackson passed away in June of 2017. So shortly after that, his wife Andrea took over as president. She works closely with her son Kevin, who is now vice president. And Henry really believed in making sure to care for his employees and to give people a chance to work their way up from the bottom through hard work and dedication. That was one of his biggest things that he always stressed in any conversation with him. So he also believed it was important to hire minorities and women, not only to have them as employees, but to let them grow and become bosses with the company. So this statement is still lived today by Andrea and Kevin and their whole family and all their initiatives. I kind of wanted to share a quote. As I was preparing for this, I was kind of going back and reading a lot about the Jacksons, and it was some stuff that I had forgot about. But one quote I really thought, kind of fit what we're talking about in this series. So one thing I came across was Henry said, there's a perception that minorities can't do the big contracts. Minorities can't raise capital. They can't sit at the big table and make big decisions relative to growing a company worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I want to show the world that minorities and women can grow a business of substance in the society like any other ethnic group. Minorities and women need to realize the importance of our offspring. Success is possible if we seek it, and we can seek it and achieve it if we just try hard with hard work and determination. So
thanks for sharing that. One of my regrets is not getting to Evansville sooner. I got here in 2019, and as you stated, Mr. Jackson passed away in 2017. Someone I wished I would have had an opportunity to meet. But nonetheless, his legacy lives on through Millennium and all of the workers that he cared for. What's it like, Kent? I mean, is there any challenges as a minority-owned business in the supply chain? Are there any unique challenges that comes along with that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of the challenges that we run into are kind of out of our hands. A lot of times we run into logistics issues with the steel mills. We run into just various issues with ordering steel, getting steel in here timely. I know Ted and Leah can speak on that. We've seen that really being a big item over here since the beginning of last year, especially. But so that is one problem we run into. We kind of work hard. We have very close relationships with all of our vendors, so we can actually have the functionality to reach out to one of the other vendors if it's a part shortage for one vendor. If the specifications are close with another vendor, we can reach out to them, do some reapplications, and get the material to where we need what Toyota needs. And I'm glad you asked that, because I wanted to touch base on a couple hardships and stuff that we've had over the past years since I've kind of been in supervisory and manager levels. So back in 2008, 2009, we had the recession. So that was pretty tough on us. I believe Toyota was shut down over 3 months. So we had to work really hard with Toyota and the steel mills on what to do with our inventory, with our logistical aspect of it, with our cash flow, all the other aspects of business. So a lot of work went into that. That was kind of before I got into where I'm at now, but I do recall that there was a lot of work that had to be done with that. In May of 2016, we actually had a natural disaster in our Texas plant. So we had a severe storm that hit with a tornado that hit the plant. One side of the building was completely destroyed. Since our warehouse is climate controlled and the steel and aluminum cannot get wet, we had to scrap much of that material. So we had to go through, see what we could salvage, see what we had to scrap, see what we could resell to other folks. And then on top of that, huge insurance claims. So that was a pretty big thing we had to work through. And then obviously last year with COVID, I mean, we had to completely change on how we did that. We were down for 6 weeks. We kept working. Toyota was down for 6 weeks, but we kept working. We had some other customers that luckily we were still able to provide steel to, but we basically had to cut back. And then, that changed with work from home, new protocols, who could work from home, who couldn't work from home. And then just some of the employment issues that we're still seeing today. So, but one thing I wanted to talk about with all of these disasters, and there's been some others, kind of early on, I think. One thing to highlight is through all these hardships, Millennium did not have to lay off one single employee. We had to make some arrangements with our variable workforce, but as far as full-time employees, nobody lost their job. So that goes to show how much our ownership, values their employees, deeply cares about everyone from not only top management all the way down to the entry-level team members.
That's awesome. That's an awesome story. Thanks for sharing that. There's a comment in the chat. That quote was powerful, and there were some individuals that asked if you had time during this discussion to share that on the chat. That would be great. If you don't, you can send it to me, Kent, electronically,
Okay.
and I'll push it out.
Sure.
We'll push it out
Sure.
through you. All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Ted, we'll come back to you. We got great partnership already. It's going to get even better with this new building out in Gibson County, the Toyota Indiana YMCA coming soon. So, big thanks again to Leah. I know Tiffany's probably on the Zoom. Big thanks to her, Tiffany Hedden, and to you, Ted, as well as the entire team for that partnership. As you're aware, it's got some universal design components. We've been talking a lot about that when we refer to that facility. It's one instrument that the Y will use in order for us to achieve a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive environment. I've often quoted the National Disability Authority's definition of universal design to explain to individuals who are unfamiliar. And I'll share that with the group. Universal design, when you hear that term, it really is the design and composition of an environment so that it can be accessed, understood, and used to the widest degree possible, the greatest extent possible by everyone, regardless of age, size, disability, or inability. So it's the gamut, not just individuals with mobility challenges, but individuals that have other limitations as well. Ted, with that definition in mind, what are some of the things that Toyota takes into account when making the work environment more welcoming and more inclusive?
Yeah. Thanks, Johnathan. I appreciate that. A lot of times, people, when they talk about employing people with disabilities, the first kind of hurdle is everybody says, well, we got to make accommodations. We got to change the work content, decrease the work content to allow an individual to be successful. Well, here at Toyota, what we've been able to do is to challenge that paradigm. And it's really, again, going back to the Toyota way of respect for people and continuous improvement. So what we do Kaizen. Kaizen is about making an improvement to make a process better. And we have several examples of that through our activity with employing people with disabilities. A couple of stories I'll share. One is there was one of our processes that an individual works in. They get a printed piece of paper, and on that piece of paper, there's lines of data that they have to count to then go pick the parts, to put them in boxes, then get sent to the line. We build the Highlander and Sienna on the same line, so we have to have those parts picked in the sequence that the vehicles are running down the line to allow for space in the process to build the vehicle. So the individual was working the process, and they were struggling. And when my team came and said, hey, look at this individual struggling, We're not sure why they can't keep up. Can we go take a look at this? So together we went down and watched the process. First practice, go and see what's happening in the process. The team member, in counting those 24 lines of data, was taking them about 65 to 80 seconds to count that. We only allocate about 6 seconds to do that. So when we stopped and we asked the member, first thing, respect for people, ask the member, hey, why is it taking you so long to count this 24 lines of data? And the individual said, well, I struggle counting. I can't count that high. I lose track. Oh, okay. So we started talking with other individuals. Well, what do you do? What do you do? What do you do? And finally, an individual in the group says, well, I don't count. Whoa, hang on a second. You have to count. No, I've learned that 24 lines of data is exactly this thick long. So now they lay the stick down, draw a line across a piece of paper, and cut the piece of paper. They have 24 lines, 3 seconds. So everybody can use that. It's a phenomenal activity, and it's just Kaizen. It's not an accommodation. Anybody can use it, universal design. The second example I'll give is with my son. He was doing a similar process, picking parts, but where he had to pick, he had to walk, maybe 10, 15 yards before he had to, he memorized the data, went to go pick the part, and by the time he got there, forgot. How many of us have walked from the kitchen to the bedroom and lose track of, wow, what am I here for again? I can't remember, right? So we talked about that. And my son's a huge Peyton Manning fan, right? Like he just idolizes Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning gets paid millions of dollars a year. Does he memorize all his plays? No, he's got a little armband that he wears, and he can look and see what his plays are in every situation. So we bought him an armband, and we bought several other people an armband, then they can tape that data onto their armband. And when they walk to go pick the part, there it is for them right there. They don't have to memorize it. They walk there and they see exactly what it is, and they're able to pick that part and be successful. And we make these tools available for anybody. So really, universal design for us is all about Kaizen and looking for a way for everybody to be successful.
Thank you. Thank you, Ted, for that deep dive on that subject. Dustin, I want to cue you in. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Thanks, Johnathan. Thank you, everyone, for having us here.
Yeah, great to have you guys. Hey, I understand, like I read earlier in your bio, you oversee every aspect of technology, not just for Millennium, Indiana, here in Princeton, but for San Antonio as well. You also work with two major companies, Grumman, Northrop, and I'm sure others, which is a big deal and a huge responsibility. I was reading recently, some headlines as they relate to African Americans in tech jobs, and 3 headlines I wanted to share. One was, why are African American and Latinos kept out of tech? Another one read, 5 eye-opening statistics about minorities in tech. And the third, Black and Hispanic representation in tech. It's time to change the equation. You are a great example of someone that's moved into that space, an African American that's taken a tech job and been quite successful. Tell us a little bit about your journey with the company, the growth that you've experienced there, as well as in the industry, and maybe even some insights as to why we may see that underrepresentation from those minority groups.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I actually thought about this this situation. A lot of times there is some misconceptions that minorities or African Americans don't strive in the tech industry. Kent and I went to some training. They had a trainer come down to do some group training, and she came down from Detroit. And we went around the room and we gave her our names and our titles and our positions. And she actually stepped back and she looked at me different. It's like, well, you're in IT? Like, it was something really weird to see African American in IT industry. And I was like, yeah, I'm in IT. That is what it is. But yeah, there's that understanding or that thought that African Americans or minorities are not in IT. You think about our location in San Antonio, very, very diverse with Hispanic culture and such. The IT team there are 2 Hispanic folks, a lady and a male that's on the team down there. So very diverse, working with every aspect of technology for Millennium. That's cell phones, laptops, computers, printers, servers, switches, hardware, talking about disaster recovery. Now we're on to the whole cybersecurity threat. We're doing training with the company to all the employees to spot fake emails. We do testing and remedial training for folks who fell on those items. Really, for my journey, I started in 2006, entry-level position with Millennium. I got a call from our then general manager, and I thought it was a fake call. So I didn't return his call. So 2 weeks later, he called me again and asked if I was interested in coming in for an interview. And at that time, it was hard to find. I'm not sure how it is now, but it was hard to find a IT job because you didn't have experience. They wanted everyone to have experience, so it was hard to get in and get experience if you didn't have any. So Millennium, that's why I keep. I love it here. They were able to take a chance on me to let me come in as an entry-level position, and actually use my creativity to strive to be where I'm at now. So in 2006, started as an entry-level position, managing, just doing entry-level work, setting folks up on laptops, computers, and such. And now I'm the manager of this department that oversees two companies. The Northrop Grumman relationship, they've now became into a Peraton. They were actually sold, and now they're a Peraton group, and they're out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So we deal with them multiple times a week, from projects, application projects to EDI communication. As Kent mentioned, our suppliers we talk with. In the tech industry, it's all communication by EDI, electronic data interchange. So when you guys receive packages at home and your box arrives, there's a little file that gets sent and tells you, hey, this shipment is on its way, kind of like tracking. So we communicate with the steel mills that way. The steel mills communicate with us, and we communicate with our customers with EDI. So there's always changes. We ship material to Toyota. We send them a piece of EDI transmission so they can receive the material. So there's always new projects there through Kaizen, like Ted talked about. I'm actually I lead the Kaizen committee here at Millennium. We get Kaizens from accounting folks, sales, operation team members, blanket line team members. So it was important to, when we talk about inclusion, we used to review these Kaizens from the management level. And folks in the warehouse would submit Kaizens. So there was always questions. Well, I'm not sure what this person means by that. Well, let's go and see. Let's go and see what this process is. So we have included a team member from every department to be on the Kaizen team. So when we get a maintenance Kaizen in, we have someone on maintenance who can speak about that, and they can educate everybody on that so we can make the appropriate decision. In this industry, it is kind of rough with the steel and such. Some of the Kaizen ideas that we've come through, we've used iPod scanners, where folks in the industry said that wouldn't happen because it's too brutal of a environment, maybe drop the iPod and things like that. But we were able to save, $3,000 per unit on the scanner that we're using out there to use iPod. And Henry was always pushing for us to use technology in any way we could. So if it meant to change from one scanner to an iPod scanner, let's do that. We've Kaizened our receiving process. We've Kaizened a lot of different opportunities out on the lines. We've integrated our production lines with the software so the team members wouldn't have to production report all the material. So all those things, it's just a lot of projects that we deal with day in and day out, and keeping track of those things to see them through. It's a lot of stuff, really.
Yeah, sounds like a big responsibility, but they got the right person doing it.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate that.
Ken, you've been with Millennium 16 years. I think we had this discussion between you and Dustin. 15, 16 years. You guys have been part of Millennium for quite some time. 16 years. I see that your late founder, Henry Jackson, before he built the company, he worked in the field of finance, particularly during a challenging time for African-American corporate professionals. So that's something I'm sure you guys share, that finance background. Tell us about your role, your growth at Millennium, kind of your journey, and any influences that he may have had on you to get you where you are today.
Yeah, for sure. So my journey is pretty similar to Dustin's. Yeah, I started in 2005, about 4 months after graduating from college. I initially interviewed and didn't get the job. And so then the other girl that started quit, but 3 months later. So then they called me pretty quick, and I was like, yes, as I knew about the company and everything. So I'm like, for sure, this is where I need to be. So ever since then, you just talked about, earlier I talked about Henry was very strong on working your way up through the company. And giving folks opportunity. So, just along the way, some stuff had happened to be able to make those jumps that I did. But basically, I've been involved in every aspect of accounting within the company. And then we were two separate entities, Indiana and Texas. We merged in 2019. So we're all one entity now, Millennium Steel of Texas. So that has definitely that was a challenge to getting everything, seeing things from both sides, how things have changed over the years, how we want to make sure that that we're working together to succeed in the future. So Dustin and myself are actually the only two individuals that have responsibilities over both plants other than our executive management or other than our ownership. So we have a lot more responsibility now than we had, 2 or 3 years ago. So it's been challenging, but it's also been rewarding as well. I wanted to talk a little bit about our executive management team. So we have 9 folks that are considered upper management. So we have weekly calls on Thursdays every week to kind of just discuss any kind of issues. So of those 9 people, 7 of them started as entry-level positions like myself and Dustin. So, and then, 70% of our other 120, 130 team members are of diverse backgrounds. So, just getting, that just shows the culture that the Jackson's family have wanted to set here at Millennium to move people up, to get women involved, to get diverse background moved up. Over the years, and with hard work, there's been no issue with that. Like I said, opportunities have arisen with whether some of the other management have left or moved on to other roles or changed departments even. So that's really opened the door for folks like myself and Dustin to be able to move up through the company.
Yeah, sounds like it. So when we think about Millennium and there's this great history, the Jackson family, along with you guys and your teams have carved out. You're a great example of DEI. I think my next question is, it's probably answered in just seeing the development of individuals like yourselves. But why is it so important to Millennium? If you had to, phrase that out, why do you think DEI is so important to Millennium Steel?
Yeah, so this has been really important to both personally and professionally as well to Millennium. So being a man of color raised in a small community, I'm from here in Princeton that is not that diverse. It's been wonderful to work for a company that brings that into the area and specializes in these principles. Like I said, we're diverse from our board all the way down to our entry-level employees, and that's been the Jackson's main goal is to take care of the employees. So as far as equity and inclusion, that previously I mentioned about the executive positions, if it weren't for them putting their trust in us and management supporting our decision making, making us feel important as part of the organization, having these weekly meetings and monthly meetings that we have with every group, we wouldn't have folks here with such long longevity. So I've worked through all this, and I want to make sure that people come in that work under me. I want to make sure that that they feel welcome, and no matter what their background is. Really we've focused as a company more of doing over the past couple of years. We focused more of having more one-on-ones with folks to be able to make them feel included. So we've We've changed our process for our reviews process. We do mid-year and end-of-year reviews are required. And a thorough evaluation is required. If they don't think it's thorough enough, we're going to get questioned on it because they want to make sure that we're connecting with our folks. Like I said, we have my group especially, and several other groups, we have monthly one-on-one meetings. Some groups have weekly meetings. I think Dustin meets weekly with his folks. He has those meetings with Northrop Grumman, Peraton, people outside of our company as well, just to make sure we're staying on top of things. And then we also have cross-training, and we have internal meetings with other groups. So we have accounting IT meetings, we have IT sales meetings, we have IT quality meetings, accounting quality meetings. So it's not just within our own groups, but it's, really getting the information from other groups and making sure we're all on the same page on some of these bigger decisions and everything we have to make. And then another thing that I thought was kind of eye-opening when I started here was our open door policy. So we all have cubicles in the office, but they're all open. Like nobody has a room, nobody has barriers off from anybody. So we can have an entry-level accountant come in, and at any time they can go right over to the general manager, operations manager, and talk to them about anything. So that makes it that environment makes it really good for folks coming in to know that, hey, at any time, if my boss isn't here, or if I just want to go talk to someone else or his boss or whoever, if we just want to go talk to them about anything, we can do that at all times.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Ted, we'll come back to you and Toyota. One of the things that we've worked throughout this series on is the development of what we call a DEI toolbox. We felt it necessary to give the audience some tangible best practices, some things that they can implement in their own businesses. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when Tara closes us out. How can businesses, large and small, take some of these concepts that we've been talking about, like Toyota's implemented, science, I got to get that term right, as an example. How can other businesses begin to adopt some of those things and implement those in their work environments?
Yeah, thanks, Johnathan. I think, really you have to ask yourself, are you being intentional about driving inclusion? And I think that message is rang through not just from Toyota here, but also what you're hearing from the Millennium team there in Dustin and Kent. You can drive diversity and equity and equality through inclusion. Without inclusion, you can't move that needle. And really, inclusion means that everyone at the table's getting a voice to be heard, right? There's a quote, and I apologize, I can't remember who is there, but I love this quote, who wrote this. But, inclusion is more than just inviting somebody to the dance. It's actually inviting the individual to the dance, to dance with you while you're at the dance. And when I look at our disabilities hiring program, when we reflected, we had invited the people with disabilities to the dance. They were here, they were working in an enclave, they were separate, but had we asked them to be a part of the dance? No. So what we needed to do was be more intentional about our development of individuals with disabilities, be more intentional about our design of our processes so that everybody could be successful. So it really takes an intentional mindset. And then from that, as a leader, what I'm doing is making sure that our folks understand the importance of inclusion. And what I try to tell the team is that, inclusion drives teamwork. If you're including everybody in the team, we're working together. We all know that teamwork drives success. So in order to achieve success, it requires intentionality. So I hope that you heard that through what we do here at Team MI, and then also what Millennium is doing.
Thank you, Ted. Thank you.
Hey, Johnathan, if I could speak on inclusion real quick, on the DEI, a good example of inclusion is with Millennium, between one of our carriers. So all the steel that comes into Millennium comes on a flatbed truck, Conestoga, some kind of semi tractor trailer, and then we use those trucks to ship. Henry actually was approached by a gentleman who was wanting to start his own trucking company, and he was African American. I think he was out of Henderson, Kentucky, and or Owensboro, somewhere like that. And Henry gave him an opportunity to haul material out of Millennium. We gave him a lane. We introduced him to our logistical team, and they worked with him and for years and got him to where he was able to get out and get his own contracts and things like that. So that is intentional, exactly what Ted said. You have to be intentional about that. And Henry was very intentional, knew where he came from, the opportunities that he had, and he wanted to pass that forward to this individual. And it's a very successful story that we want to talk about that. And I just wanted to mention that to everybody.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for adding that as well. Like I pointed out, we really haven't explored that I and DEI. This was a great example to do that. And I think we have two great examples in organizations that have done some work in that space. Dustin, go back to the earlier question I posed to you about tech and minorities, because you open my eyes. And when we talk about perception, we don't see, but that doesn't mean there's no other evidence of minorities in tech fields. I did see in another article, it spoke about, it was a study in 2019, Black college students, about 40% of Black college students switched out of STEM majors compared to about 29% of white students. What made the difference for you in terms of pursuing the tech field? And what could you say to young Black and brown boys and girls to encourage them to continue down that path in the pursuit of STEM related careers?
That's a good question. I actually sit on the VU advisory board for IT as well. So the board did come out to some of the folks and ask for some statements. Reminded me I still need to send that to them. What I could give, I'm not sure. So I really, originally when I went to college, I really wanted to be a chef. I wanted to go to culinary school, but I have flat feet, so I didn't think that was going to work out for me too well to be standing into a kitchen for so long. So I was always into video games and computers and things like that. So I wanted to pursue some kind of technology career. Even in class, there were maybe one or two other Black kids in the college and pursuing web design and things like that. I don't know. It's weird because I really didn't think about that being an issue until that instructor made that face and thought, I said, wow, okay, I guess there really aren't that many people like me in this industry. Like I said, we have a woman on IT, a Hispanic woman in IT in San Antonio. So I don't know if that, raised eyebrows or not for her either to be there and to see her on the IT staff. I make a point, when I go into classrooms at Junior Achievement, a lot of times I'm teaching in Gibson Southern that's not diverse at all, just like Kent said. And maybe that is something interesting. They see me standing in front of them, talking about IT, talking about, my experience, even, running, helping security with the Secret Service when Obama came to Millennium. I don't know. It's just, one of those sayings, anything's possible. Anybody can do anything. I don't know. I mean, I know the Jacksons took a chance on me, but I don't know. I don't know. I really don't know what to say about that. I really didn't think race was a problem. But I do see that now, and it is interesting statistics to see that folks are dropping out of the tech. I'm not sure why they feel that they would need to do that. I'm not sure. It's a little interesting conversation for sure.
It's definitely one that we need to continue to have. The why, along with our partners, Toyota specifically, we've invested in STEM labs in our downtown Ascension St. Vincent location, and then in the Toyota Indiana Y, we'll have some STEM features, all in an effort just to expose kids to those types of fields, those types of careers, and hopefully broaden their horizon. Yeah. You spoke a little bit about this. I hear you have a commemorative coin in your possession from the White House communications team.
Yeah.
I doubt anybody else on this Zoom. We got a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
Over 100 can say that. Can you tell us how you got that and share a little bit about the visit from President Obama?
Yeah, we could spend the whole time talking about that. I mean, it's an experience and a story for sure. Yeah, we were coming back from, when was that, 2014, I think. We were coming back from vacation, and our operation manager at the time called me in on a Sunday and said, "Hey, I need you to come to the office." I'm like, "Man, on a Sunday, I'm not sure what's going on." So I come into the plant, and there's a couple of vans outside, and all these seem like young kids, 21, 22-year-old kids running around. And I come in the office, and there's a lady sitting there in a black suit, and he says, "The president's coming to Millennium, and we need you to, talk to us about your IT security and stuff." I said, "Well, Henry was just here last week. Why do we need Secret Service? I don't understand." And so he he showed me. He's like, "Here, show him the badge." So she pulls out her Secret Service badge, and then I calmly sit down and listen to what she's talking about. So from the IT side, we looked at all the security aspects. Who has access to the doors. Talking about the overhead cranes, because the cranes move with RF crane boxes or wireless crane boxes. So they came in on Monday, and the president arrived on Friday. So Monday through Thursday, I mean, it wasn't like what you thought you see on TV. Like, I mean, all the Secret Service agents were really down to earth. They were joking around, they were laughing and carrying on and things like that. But as soon as Friday came, a different team came in. We couldn't move around the office like we had been. So if I wanted to go to the break room, they gave me a little pin that I had to put on my shirt to let them know that I had access to go into that room. They drew all the curtains down. Everyone in the office had to be out by 9 o'clock, I think. A team of dogs and Navy SEALs came in and popped all the ceiling tiles, opened all the drawers, opened Kent's accounting safe, looked through everything. And during that time, everybody had to get out except for me. So it was really cool experience that I got to stay back with the Secret Service team while they did all that. So then the president came, and from the pictures, he actually went through and walked the warehouse. We had some team members who actually got to walk with him and explain the process to him. And so that happened while everyone was in the arena, in the seating area. So that backdrop with the coils turned sideways, our maintenance team only had 4 days to move that whole area and set that stage up. We had folks coming in from some of the communication areas coming through with paperwork telling me they need to put satellites on the roof. I said I didn't have any open projects, and they came back and said, "No, it's for Friday. So we need you to let me put this stuff up there." We locked up all the boxes in the server room. We did all that stuff, and then after the event was over, I was able to walk back around the front of the building with the Secret Service lady, and I said, "Well, that's pretty cool that the president's in there. I can take a video of the motorcade as he leaves from our train bay out in the front of the building." And she said, "No, I don't think that would be good. I don't think the snipers know who you are, so I'd hate for you to be by the window while you're taking a video." So there were snipers on top of the building across our parking lot. There were snipers on top of our roof. It was a really, really cool experience to see all that unfold. And then at the end of it, they did hand out communication rings. I still have the paper. I have it at my house, and they handed that out from the White House communication team, which I mean, it's a once in a lifetime experience for sure.
Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing that. And seriously, that's a testament to the strength of Millennium. I saw in one publication, Millennium was ranked number 25 out of 100 Black-owned businesses, the top 100 Black-owned businesses. So to rank at number 25 and to have that resource here in our region, we should all be proud of that.
Yeah, and we're 12 and 14 now too. Millennium, Indiana is ranked 12, and then San Antonio's 14. I did need to reach out to them and see if that'll be combined once we merge, since we're one company. I don't know if that'll push us up to the top 10, but that's a really great achievement for a company in this area.
Congratulations. Yeah. Before we transition to the closer, because we're getting near that time. Ted, any last words you want to share in respect to the work you've done?
Certainly appreciate the time and honored to share our story here. I think it's a great partnership that we continue to build. We're looking for organizations that mimic what we want to do with regards to respect for people and continuous improvement. Companies like Millennium, organizations like the Y, different organizations that want to grow and promote inclusion. So, and have an intentional activity to promote that. So, I think this is a great activity to share kind of what we're doing in the region, and we're really proud to be a part of the Southwestern Indiana region and EREP, and an honor to be a part of this discussion today to help different organizations see some of the things that we're doing. Big companies, small companies can all do the things that we're doing. Millennium started out as a small organization, has grown. Toyota may be a very large organization, but we do things at a grassroots level to drive that inclusion through intentional activities and listening to our team members. So hopefully the folks were able to gain that today. So appreciate the time.
Thank you. Kent, Dustin, any last words, things you wanted to share that we didn't get a chance to cover?
Not a whole lot. Just appreciate you guys letting us be a part of this and inviting us to be in this series. Yes, this stuff is definitely important to our organization, and it's helped us grow substantially. We always pride ourselves as a small company that does big business. Not a lot of people know about us, but we do really big business for Toyota and the other parts makers for them. So we just pride ourselves in that. We pride ourselves in the values that the Jacksons have set for their expectations of us and the company as a whole, and making these folks feel welcome through all the DEI initiatives are exactly what they have wanted us to do with the company, and we're just so honored to be a part of that and help the company grow over the last several years.
Awesome. Dustin?
Yeah, just to piggyback on what Kent said, I mean, we're doing big business for Millennium and the other, or for Toyota and the other suppliers, and as Kent mentioned too, that's only 140 employees to be ranked with 12th and 14th on the top 100 businesses. So we do that very lean with the very big business with just a small amount of people. So that was one other thing that we do have the opportunity to do some of those things at a small company and be the leader in our industry. Sometimes when we look at our partners who haven't went down that road yet, we were able to take the step forward first and get those initiatives pushed through by Kaizen. Being a smaller organization, we can put those out there. I just want to give one more story. I mean, we have a lot of stories with Henry and how awesome of a guy he was to be around and things like that. And with Henry's being intent with helping minority businesses and things like that, they did have an annual NMSDC, National Minority Supplier Development Council conference, a national conference that was in different states and cities every year. And 1 year it was in Chicago, and Henry's from Chicago, so we did all the prep work. He wanted to have 4 or 5 booths next to each other, and we had the huge Jackson Enterprise Millennium Steel section. It was just a whole section in that area, all representing all the things that Jacksons have done for the businesses and everything like that. And we get to Chicago and we go to register or to sign up, and nobody registered Henry. So he was the president of the company. We had 4 or 5 different booths and nobody registered him. So he explained my mistake, let me know the mistake that I made, and then we moved on. So it was a very funny situation, but he was an awesome guy to be around. He had a huge heart, and he always wanted to help other people excel in their dreams as well. So inclusion and being attentive about that. Now that was him. So I just remember that story, and it was pretty fun experience. So again, I appreciate you guys letting me and Kent talk about our journey and things of that nature for Millennium. So I really appreciate it.
No, we appreciate you guys, and really thank all 3 of you and your organizations for not just your time, but your perspectives. And I hope the Zoom audience found a lot of takeaways. If I had to sum up real quickly, this conversation, which I might as well do, I'd have to say the main takeaway is there's a lot of information and there's a wealth of DEI strategies available to you and your organizations. But I think the key that opens that DEI toolbox really is our ability to look beyond what our potential team members look like. I think that's what it comes down to. I'm grateful that was the case for me when I walked into at YMCA in Saginaw, Michigan, with my ball cap on at 19, 20 years old, that they looked beyond what I looked like, and the leaders didn't let any stereotypes or anything cloud their judgment. And they gave me an opportunity. I've heard that several times on this call. Opportunity, give me a shot. And I'm a beneficiary of that. So when we think about it, there's a talented workforce out there. They come in all shapes, sizes, colors, shades, genders, and the ones that roll into your doors are just as capable of impacting your bottom line as the ones that walk into your doors. And I hope those things are takeaways from today's discussion, and whatever else the panel was able to share that might resonate with you. So Tara, I'll transition to you and let you close us out. You're muted.
I'm rarely muted, but thank you so much for this conversation, Jane, for leading it and for your personal perspective on it. I think that's great takeaway for all of us. How we benefit from the opportunities and the talents that every citizen of our region has is the path to addressing our opportunity, not just for our businesses to prosper, but for people in our community to succeed personally and for their families and for the future of this region. So many thanks to all of you that are participants in this call, that are making time to listen in. I hope you found it helpful. We will continue in this work, but I have to say, Ted, your observations were so insightful, and I've taken a dozen notes to this conversation, and I'm going to talk about a toolkit in a minute. But I have to say, Dustin, your story about how businesses helped other diverse businesses get started is an enlightenment that I want to make sure I hold myself personally accountable for, because our organization is committed to helping businesses in this region to engage and be on this path. And we're going to talk about that in 1 second here. But the best partners in helping new businesses get started and get included are other businesses. So we support organizations, can do our part, and we will, but it's our business community collectively and our civic partners that are going to be the best enablers to make sure we have many more stories like Millennium Steel and their highly effective relationship with Toyota. So that's a takeaway for me. And Kent, you started this conversation off with a quote, and we will get that out to everyone on this call. But I have to tell you, I keep one thing above my desk. And so I'm going to take the privilege of sharing a quote that is always in front of me. It's from Brian Stevenson, a guy that I think is doing extraordinary work and is someone that if you don't follow, you should. And he said, the opposite of poverty is not wealth. The opposite of poverty is justice. So as we think of the ways that we want to be on this journey of making sure that we offer a great opportunity and clear the door for great opportunity for all the citizens of our region and all the employees and leaders and managers and executives of our businesses in the region, I think that's a worthy quote to keep in mind as well. So I want to talk a tiny bit about what's next. You'll see on your screen, we've been working with many organizations throughout this region on a couple initiatives. One is a toolkit. This is intended to be some ways that your organization or you individually can continue to think about how you embed intentional inclusion, a focus on diversity, and a genuine commitment to equitable opportunity for citizens and your employees. So I hope you look at this toolkit. It's available on our website. It's a wide array of tools, partners, contacts. I think you'll find that there's something there, or I hope many things there that will help your organization to be engaged in this work going forward. So I recommend that to you. If you look at it and something doesn't make sense, be in touch with us. We will do our very best to make sure you've got access to the opportunities that help your business to flourish in the same ways that you've heard Toyota and Millennium and many of the other businesses, starting with our bankers and our state partners as we've gone through this series. So please take a look at that. We hope it's helpful to you. Secondly, I'd like to give the floor for just a moment to another great EREP board member who has a day job running a big hospital system in this community, Dr. James Porter. You know him over the years for talking about COVID, but he and many others that are important community partners in this work have some other work underway. So James, may I give you the floor for just a second?
Yeah, thanks very much, Tara. And I just want to add my thanks to Johnathan and the panel members. Really good talk today, and just reminds me how the critical nature of intentionality. Things happen when we do them intentionally, and you guys are great evidence and examples of what intentional work in this area can do. When we were reconstituting the board for EREP from the 3 legacy organizations, Pastor Adrian Brooks very appropriately challenged us around diversity for governance. And one of the things I realized in listening to boards often pick new board members from people they know. And that leaves out a lot of diverse talent in the community because not everyone knows everyone. So we put together a task force of some community leaders to start looking at how we might intentionally seek people from diverse backgrounds who have interest and talent and can contribute to governance of our organizations, not-for-profit, for-profit, civic, in the community. So we have a task force that's doing some really, I think, great work in that direction toward creating a usable database of people who've expressed an interest in governance and want to be involved. And there's more work to happen there, but it's going to be coming to EREP, to the members of EREP and the businesses in the community for their input and hopefully involvement at some point in the near future. So I want to thank the people on the call who are participating in that task force. You know who you are, and encourage everyone at EREP to look forward to how they might be a part of that initiative in the future. Thanks, Tara.
Well, this is how collaboration and good leadership moves our community forward. So thank you for convening the conversation. Thanks to all of you who are part of that ongoing work. You'll see a slide out here. Here's some things that our organization and the businesses that lead us through their board participation are going to follow on this work of this first series. We are very interested in following the Millennium story about how we help more disadvantaged businesses, whether they're Black-owned, women-owned, differently abled-owned, whatever that DBE opportunity is, to make sure they have the tools and the access to the technical opportunities they need so they can land more work with big businesses like Toyota and others. So that's one of the intentions that I'm going to share with you today. Similarly, I think you've heard work that's underway on making sure that we bring more talent to the governance of the organizations in our community. And I'm hoping that all of you that are participating will consider some individual work from your organization, which I'm going to call a corporate pledge for ease of conversation, that looks at what you're doing internally and then shares it with us so we can share more examples among our community of things that are working and are producing intentional support. So we talk about DEI, and we talk a lot about what we're going to do individually. I think today we've heard a ton about intentionality. And so thank you for reinforcing that, Dr. Porter. And thanks to all of you who are involved in this conversation. And mostly, I've got to say, a year and a half ago, Johnathan and I had coffee. Very soon, we connected up with Pat Creech at Wellburn and with Laura Stevens with Bridge and with many others, and really were inspired to start this conversation and make sure that it started with a clear understanding that every organization and every individual's in a different place on this journey. But we got to be on the journey, and we want to be on the journey, and we will all be richer and blessed for being on this journey together. So I want to thank you all for being with us today, and I hope you will share lots of feedback. I hope you will go to our website, and if you have a moment of stall, go back and look at one of these sessions together. They'll be on our website, and so you can watch number 1, 2, or 3, and we will share more with you over these coming months. But thank you for what you've shared with us, and thank you for the great work you're doing throughout the Evansville region. And I look forward to being with you again soon.